Yeah. Thank you, Bangalore Literature Festival, for inviting us and welcome Neelima ji, welcome the audience. So, the book Radha, which is your latest book, let me introduce Neelima ji, which is not need an introduction. I think she's known for writing the controversial subjects. I don't know why she choose for selling the books or it's destiny. I mean, we have to figure it out. But the family history, the family she belongs to, one of the most renowned family from India. Her father's history as a very successful businessman, one of the most renowned entrepreneur from India, with the legacy, or you can say luck, bad luck, good luck, or the very different upbringing. A father who has a six wife and the 18 children. It itself is a very different story which separates her identity from many of us, or from a huge Indian society, from a different upbringing. And the courage to write about that family in her first book, The Father Dearest, which itself was a big seller. Then a second book which I have not read, The Merchant of Death. I think it's about the Jain community, how they what I figured out about the exploitation they do in business or something like that, Marwadi community. Then the Kasturba, which the title suggests, she has. I wrote about Mahatma Gandhi's relation with the Kasturba and few imagination of her also, what she thought might have gone through in their lives, and she incorporated that in that book. And now this Radha, which many of us get confused with the surname, that this is actually the story of Krishna and Radha, but it's not. It is just the mythological Krishna and Radha has been thought of us in the present, the princess of Radha, and which is again a thought process of her, which is thought as Radha's love story into Krishna. Let me start with this, Sanjivaji. Why you choose this subject which creates sort of controversy, apart from your first book, which is, of course, your own sort of family's biography or family's history or your experience in the family. Apart from first book, why you choose a subject which is, uh, even the surname people thinks that the title of the books people think that this is related to like this Kasturba or Radha, but actually it is your uh, you think that you should incorporate your story into it, because maybe it's right and few people might take it as wrong also. I mean, this is I would like to
Thank
hear
you.
from you first. Yeah.
Thank you, Sundeep. To answer your first question, uh, this should come as no surprise to you because I think I am a product of controversy. As I always say, I am the product of polygamy and the fourth child of the sixth wife of my father, who had 18 children and was not an Arab. So I think what other people find controversial is actually regular and a way of life for me. And being a student of psychology, what has always excited me is the alternate and the bizarre. I don't like to write vanilla stories. I like to get into stories which have an alternate view, which can be viewed like in all four of my books. The first, of course, is my father's life, where there is no alternate view. It is my view. I lived that life with him. The second is a kind of a spillover from my father's biography, which is a representation of the Marwadi community to which I belong, which I have received a lot of brickbats for. The third is the Secret Diary of Kasturba, and then that the challenge for me was that I, being a product of this century, this millennial, had to get into the soul of a woman who's 100 years older and be able to emote with her and be able to narrate what were her experiences in dealing with the ordinariness of the most extraordinary man who we deem as a Mahatma. And the fourth book, which I feel is my most, if I can choose books among my four, I feel it is the most beautiful expression of the love story between Radha and Krishna. So, to answer your question, it is not controversial, it is my view. And I tend to always gravitate towards the bizarre and the odd stories, and therefore, whatever I write and produce appears to be bizarre and odd to my readers.
So thank you. The reason I asked you this thing because this is a trend in our society. Whatever create controversy sells, whether it's clothes, whether it's films, whether it's books, whether it's food. If somebody says that the chola bhatura is making square, first thing is people go and try that square chola bhatura. Whatever films is controversial, people want to see those films. The film is banned, people will go and see the films. So if it is, so the book which is creates controversy is the first one. Your book is not formally released yet. Still, you have been invited to any possible literature festival. Your book has been done in Dubai, it's abroad also. Your book is doing, and still you yet to release the formally. I doubt hardly any copy is left for your formal release or not. So, is it the reason that you choose such topics, or because the critics also says when you invite the people and I know the literature festival has been invited you to be a panel part of the panel on the mythology, but as you yourself say, this book is not as far as mythological Radha is concerned. So, what's your take on that? I mean, where you categorize your this book? If you have to categorize in a bookstore, like Atagrada bookstore is there. So, if they have to keep your book in a particular section of the bookstore, they should keep in a just as a fiction, just as a mythology, just as a love story, just as erotica, where they will keep your book.
I don't know because it is a bit of all of that. It is neither mythology, it is partly fiction, it is definitely erotica, and I don't
So,
know.
if you say yourself is definitely erotica, so you mean in London and anywhere where they have a separate erotica section, you want to be
No,
kept
no,
this book in erotica section?
no, not at all. Because let me tell you that there's a very fine line between obscenity and aesthetics.
Hmm.
And somehow I have always gravitated towards dealing with strong women, rule breakers in the sense that they go against the societal accepted norms, which is partly I see myself projected in the protagonist, in Radha, for instance. And what really drew me to their story was that I wanted to meet the Radha who was not the Radha of Bhakti, who was not the deity where everybody wants to believe that the love between Radha and Krishna was nothing to do with their bodies. It wasn't a physical love. It was an esoteric love where she is the lost or the pining Atma looking for the Paramatma. So the source of my research is Jaydev's book on Krishna Radha, Geet Govind. And it's only very recently that I was told that in very orthodox and cultured, so called, what should I say, purist kind of families, Jaydev's book is considered to be a taboo. Nobody wants to keep it in their homes. So that, in fact, was even more spurring for me. I said, then my story, which actually crystallizes the love story between Radha and Krishna. And what really kind of inspired me was that here is this woman, she's 15 years, 13 years older than this, her lover. He is related to her by marriage. He is her husband's sister's son. She is insanely, madly in love with him. And she violates all the rules of the marriage. She takes on the powerful Yadav clan and she does what she pleases. She wears her infidelity like a badge of honor on her sleeve. That is the Radha I wanted to meet, and that is the Radha I wanted to write about.
See, talking about Geet Govind and mythology, it said that Krishna is one of the only character in our mythology who has lived in his life all the six forms of love. There's a difference between Mamtav and Vatsalya.
Yes.
The relation between Devki and Krishna and the relation between Yashoda and Krishna was different. One was Vatsalya, one was Mamtatva. So same way, there's a difference between love of Meera and Krishna and Radha and Krishna. So what you are saying is you want to see in modern society the love which Radha has for Krishna.
I won't say I wanted to see it in modern society, but like it or lump it, it is prevalent in modern society. There is a Radha in each one of us. Whether we are able to let her out, whether we are able to empower her expressions, her actions, that is a different story. Covertly or overtly, there is a Radha in each one of us. And in me, I find the Radha that I have portrayed in my book has a lot of shades of me because I've always been rebellious. And like I said, I'm a product of controversy, a product of polygamy, so nothing controversial ruffles me. Therefore, I wanted to create a Radha which every one of us can relate to. Of course, I have risked the anger of the people who want to see Radha as a deity, and they said that you have demystified her and you have humanized her, which is a cardinal sin. But so be it.
So, one of your recent interviews is again created a controversy where you spoke about Nehru's relation or attraction. So, I think it was just last week or something. Would you
Right.
want to speak about it? What exactly you said? Because I just heard about it. And
This was a talk I had with Sahitya Tak, and it was a podcast on my journey as a writer, starting from my childhood right up till the present day. So, the time when he asked me to speak about my mother, I don't know how many people of you know, my mother was a very, very erudite Hindi literature poetess. She had
no,
more
she got
than
a Padma Bhushan by
Bhushan.
the government of India
She
also,
got the
and
Padma Bhushan in the
there's a
later years of her life. Uh, my mother had a very illustrious career, and the most cardinal sin, I call it, or the most grave mistake she ever made in her life was to get married to my father, because she had a choice between joining the freedom movement, where she had struck up a romantic correspondence with Nehru, and she had taken a pen name of Nero. She was a young woman in her 20s at that time. And what amazed me was that Nehru, with all his challenges, with the freedom movement at its peak, boiling point, he had the time to write back to her. So clearly, Nehru was a flirt and a romantic, just like my mother was. And she was delighted with this correspondence. And she went to meet Nehru, and he told her at that time that take this letter to Maulana Azad and come and join the movement. We need you. We need women like you. And on the other hand, look at the irony of it that she had started writing at a very early age. So her first poetry was published in a newspaper in Nagpur. And my stepmother, who became her greatest bete noir later, had instituted a prize for poetry from Lucknow, and my grandfather had applied for that prize. He had entered my mother's poetry for that prize, and as luck would have it, hers was chosen to be the best prize for that year. So she goes with my grandfather to Lucknow, and my father, who was already 5 wives old, saw her and he fell crazily in love with her. So there was this, what should I say, conflicting correspondence between my father and my mother where he proposed to her, and she was outraged because she was this rebellious freedom fighter, women's liberation movement kind of woman, the first woman graduate of Rajasthan. And she was outraged and said, how dare this man propose marriage to me? So when she reached the crossroads where she had to make a decision, ultimately I think, I don't know, as I tell her that money and power is the greatest aphrodisiac. So you fumbled, and I think she was influenced by my grandfather. And fatal mistake she made was that she chose to marry my father.
so I don't know about others, but I don't think so. Your sister will endure this, and how happy she will be hearing this, being a hardcore Nehru and Congress fan.
Yeah, she's
But
the bad one. She's the one who betrayed Lanka. She's
okay,
because Nehru and
so
my father were the greatest antagonists. Of course, it's such a paradoxical story that my mother's prime love was Nehru, and then Nehru worked to destroy my father, and my sister now chooses to be with their party.
okay, so is it a plot of your new next book?
You've just given me an idea. Let's see.
So the letters between Nehru and your mother, or something like that.
Well, that will make a very. Somebody else also suggested this to me. It'll make a very interesting story because Nehru was a romantic and the die-hard flirt, and he had several women on his in his stable. So let's see, maybe.
I don't know, Bangalore Literature Festival invite you for next time for this book or not, but so coming back to your this new book, Radha. So when you were thinking of this story, and what do you think? Which is your favorite chapter in your this book, or what is which has you can create with Geet Govind or any of the fact mythological story, which is as per Indian belief, and what you have fictionalized it in your book, which is the best chapter in this book as per you?
Well, if you ask me, the one that touches my heart the most is the last chapter of Radha's dying. Uh, I so it ends with Radha's dying, and it begins when Krishna leaves Vrindavan and he goes to Mathura, and the pain and the parting and that feeling of widowhood that Radha felt, and after which she is tried by the village panchayat for infidelity and for breaking all the laws of the marriage, and she decides to go to Dwarka to meet Krishna and to die in his arms. I think that is the most moving and the most intense chapter of the book. I, uh, I have to confess that each time I read it, even now, I tear up. But if you ask me which is the most exciting chapter which has really brought out passion and love and erotica, it's of course the Ras Leela. So I cannot deny that there are elements of of mythology in that, because till today it's a mystery whether Radha was a figment of Jayadev's imagination. There was no Radha before that, or whether Radha was actually a part of Krishna's childhood and her life. So I choose to believe the latter, and I have created. Just like I did in Kasturba, if I believe that Radha was already present when Krishna was born, so I have narrated the story of Radha's life from her eyes, where she's watching Krishna grow from infant to boyhood to adulthood and to become the monarch of Dwarka. So both are my. Actually, it's difficult to say. The whole book is a intense upheaval of emotions, but definitely her end chapter where she dies is what leaves you wanting more.
As far as Radha was imagination for Krishna's childhood, but Indian mythology also says that Krishna has never touched the flute once he broken during the Radha when she was young, and when he come back to Mathura. That's a different part of mythological stories. But when you spoke that you find each woman has Radha in it, and in the society and the place you live in, Raisina Hills, you see, there's a love stories, and there's a in the society we live in, there's changing of relations, changing of emotions, this thing. Which figures you think you can really symbolize in today's world, which can resembles Radha, whether it's a good Radha, bad Radha, culprit Radha, ugly Radha, or mythological Radha, or the modern Radha?
Now you want to leave absolutely no stone unturned to have me excommunicated from Delhi, from the literary community, from the press. I am not
I
giving
mean,
you
you
any
you
names.
you called for it. You said you find every woman as a Radha. So I just said, well, it's a good Radha, bad Radha, culprit
So
Radha,
there is no such
spiritual
thing.
Radha, what Radha, whom you find. You belong from just middle of the Raisina Hills, where you find so many Radhas around you.
But
So you,
there is no such thing as a good or a bad Radha. As I said, every woman has a Radha inside her. And Sundeep, this is really a quick trick question, because I am not going to get into the trap of naming anybody.
and so everybody is Radha then.
Everybody's Radha. They can choose good or bad.
So then name any Krishna then.
You you have an organization which has a few hundred women, and I can proclaim this with absolute certainty that some of the finest brains and beauties across India are part of our organization.
No, that's because you are also part of it. So you are self-claiming yourself as a brain and beauty, which we all agree.
No, I don't know
So
about beauty, but little bit of brains I do think I have.
yeah. So the time is winding up. Anything else you want to comment on the book, or want to say anything about your book to the readers before we wrap up? This is the last question to you.
I want to tell my readers that don't read my book as a version of Indian mythology. That is an aberration. My Radha is a product of my imagination. I have definitely projected my own attributes in her. I want to, like I said, I wanted to be one. I have entered into the soul of Radha to feel, empathize, to feel the pain, the parting, the loving, the erotica, every single emotion that Radha has felt as a woman. I wanted to feel that and I wanted to express that. So please read Radha as a actualization of my dream, as an energy which has come into me. I always say that when I write, I don't know who writes for me. Please read Radha as somebody who I have imagined, I have seen, I have lived with, and I love. In that case, in that manner, you will not be distorting my conception of Radha. If you look for Radha of the mythology, you will be seriously disturbed and you may hate me.